Hello, my name is Gray Lynch. I work within the digital team on SMDC, and this.
My name is Dan Flatley. I work in the CPE division.
And I'm Kate Breslin, and I work in banking and finance, and have done for 13 years.
All right, so the purpose of this video is we're going to be talking to Kate here in regards to what we should be doing as junior recruiters and what suggestions she has for careers. So we're going to jump right into it, and our first question is, Kate, what mentality should we bring to a new desk?
Okay, great question. So look, I haven't had an awful lot of time to look through that actually, to be honest, but I think that I would first of all say is just sort of a sense of excitement, because I think this role, even after 13 or 20 odd years that I've been in recruitment, if you don't sort of approach your desk in a sense of, you know, what's new, what's exciting, what's coming, then it's really quite a difficult job. So a sense of excitement, a sense of discovery about, you know, what there is, what opportunities you can grow from, you know, sometimes a very cold scenario. I'm not sure what desks you've taken over, whether there was a very warm, do you know what I mean by cold and warm?
Yeah.
So, you know, if it's very warm, that's one thing, but, you know, there's always something to go at, but from that, just being open to spinning out and doing new things. I found that, you know, back in the day, just sort of being really open-minded about what you can do with the desk. Don't just think because what you're presented with is, or, you know, is where you are. Sort of think bigger picture than that, because usually you find that, you know, the person before hasn't always done what you might be thinking. You all think differently. So just, you know, open your mind and go in with a very open mind, but a very sort of strong sense of drive, determination, and adventure.
I like that.
It's a fun job. It's a very simple job, but it's a fun job if
Yeah.
you look at it in that way.
Yeah.
That's the way I mean, that's why I'm still doing it.
Fair enough.
Perfect. What was the best advice you were given when you started your recruitment career?
Right, so I started back in '94, and I just remember being very lucky back in the day that I worked with a couple of really strong old school recruiters that did a really amazing job and were really well respected and liked by their clients and candidates. So, you know, obviously that does help. If you learn from people that do it well, then that sets you up for a positive career. And what I remember most about them really drilling into me was just never give up. Actually, never give up at what you're doing. You know, at the time I was doing accounting temp recruitment when I started, and that was before computers, so you just had literally a filing cabinet full of files, literally. So you got a job in, picked up the phone, or went and visited a client, picked up a job, you came back and you just searched. And you had sort of, these were your live active candidates, and then you had cabinets full of other candidates, and sometimes you'd go through them and sometimes you'd be doing both. And it was a very visual job, but you kind of never gave up. That was what, you know, never sort of, even when you think I've exhausted all of that, try and think outside the box, ring that person, say who do you know, and just keep going, never give up. And really, that sense of resilience is what stuck with me, and that's really what does keep you going. That makes a good consultant, I think, and positivity.
Thank you.
So in terms of that, I guess it'd be back to your earlier days. What tips would you give yourself now if you could go back to when you first started?
Well, I mean, actually, really nothing more than that, because I found keeping it simple and keeping to the basics. I mean, I think, you know, over anybody's career, I'm sure, you know, you've learnt over your shorter careers or from other people around you that, you know, nothing in life is that complicated, and you can't reinvent the wheel. You just got to do the basics really well. So if you set yourself up to do the basics really well from the start, which I kind of was lucky enough to do, you know, with some good mentors, just keep doing that is really all you need to know. And there's nothing new or different I would teach myself, because I think I was lucky enough to be taught the right way to start with. And I've just carried on doing the same old thing, and it seems to work.
Fair enough.
Part-time, I'm still doing all right.
Yeah. That's good. How do you recommend we structure our day?
Structure your day?
Yeah.
That's a tricky one in a way, in that I think each industry is subtly different here.
Okay.
So I know that, again, when I started, in accounting, there was very much this whole, have you heard about core hours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole core hour thing, you know, so you don't go on visits, you should be on the phone in core hours rather than going out, and you should, you know, certain times you should be doing certain things. Okay. And there's, you know, a lot of truth in that. Obviously that's not come from nowhere, but, you know, I often find that the problem with that is that you and every other agency and consultant in every other agency around city are doing exactly the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and therefore, when you make a call, client might just go, oh, not another agency, you know, because everyone's calling me between 10 and 12.
Mm.
Whereas if you think outside the box again and go, well, actually, a lot of my clients I can't get hold of during the day because that's when they're back-to-back meetings. Far better to actually call people late in the evening when they've actually, you know, finished their day, and that's when they've usually set aside time to get things done. And depending on what you're calling about and why you're calling and how you structure that conversation, they're usually happy to talk to you then, because actually it's almost a relief from the work they're doing as opposed to the rushing to a meeting. And they're just sort of, you know, you need to say, depending on what you're trying to talk to them about, that's often a good time to catch them. Works for me.
Fair enough. Thank you. So how do you suggest we source good quality candidates?
And then again, you know, coming back to basics, I mean, obviously the basics is always never assume about any candidate that you think you know who they are, what they want or what they don't want, and that they're right or wrong for the job. It's always worth a conversation, because even if you kind of know they're not right, you can use them to bounce and find out if they know anyone else who's also going to be good or could be better. So it's, you know, nowadays everything we do, because usually we don't get jobs on in banking and finance until they've already done an advertised campaign, they've already done an internal search, so they've already sort of done a bit of a search. So we're always doing, therefore, a genuine search from scratch. You know, you're not just putting an ad up and hoping for the best, you are having to search not just your database but people that aren't actively looking. So you have to have a multi-targeted approach nowadays. It's the only way to be successful. So you just got to, again, never give up. Going back to that old thing, you just never give up. You just keep picking up the phone. You just keep talking to people. Just every time you have a conversation, just thinking, what roles have I got on? You know, what else could I talk to that person about? When you're talking to them, if you think, oh, they're not right for this role, but you know, could they be right for something else? And just constantly have an open mind. It's a bit like having I think you should like constantly having a radar going all the time on your head about, you know, what you've got on, what's coming up, what, you know, and if you see an amazing candidate or hear or talk to an amazing candidate, actually the most critical advice, I'm not sure whether this is in your questions, but with candidates, the critical thing is don't waste time. You know, if you see a CV that comes through or someone mentions someone that sounds good, don't hesitate to ring them and get them in straight away, or interview them over the phone. Get them to agree over the phone to them being submitted if it's depending on the urgency of the role, and then, you know, bring them in for an interview later on that day or the next day if you have to, because time is everything. Again, depending if it's temp or perm, but don't wait and think, you know, because the sooner you get onto them, I've definitely won the race many times just by not sitting on my laurels, you know, just picking up the phone straight away and getting onto it, not waiting. So you prioritise your candidates, because if you see an amazing A+ candidate, get onto them quickly, because somebody else will if you don't, and then you've lost them. Because once somebody else has beaten you to the game and got them in front of the client, you know, you've lost. So you've wasted your time interviewing this amazing candidate then, because you're not going to be able to represent them anyway. So it's about doing it right, but doing it cleverly, you know.
Okay.
I think.
How do you manage candidates' expectations?
Yeah, that's pretty easy as well. Really, you just over promise and under deliver. You know, never say, "Oh yeah, you know, I'll keep in touch. I'll ring you every week." Never say that, 'cause you won't. You know, be real, because they're far more likely to respect you for being honest. As well, if you know you're not going to be able to help them, tell them.
Yeah.
I really don't think I'm going to be able to help you. They're the sort of roles I don't get those sorts of roles on. There's a chance I might. I'd love to keep in touch with you. If I do, there's a strong chance I won't be able to. I'm always pretty honest about things like that. Or if you do want to help them, they're really good, then you know, set up a diary note to give them a call every 2 or 3 weeks if they're that good. That's quite a good thing to do, because then you find out what interviews they're going for and everything as well.
Yeah.
But certainly never sort of say you're going to ring them every week if you know that you're not going to do it, and I don't know anyone that does that effectively. So you're far better off just saying, look, I'll keep in touch, I'll ring you when there's something to talk about.
Yeah.
Obviously I can't just say that, I can't ring you every week unfortunately, but please, by all means, keep in touch with me, is what I say. Drop me a line every couple of weeks, even if I don't respond, is what I say. You know that I've seen and read your email or your text, in which case you're then in front of mine. So it's really helpful for me if you just drop me a line or shoot me a text every couple of weeks. That way I know you're still available, and I'll keep thinking about you. But I'll be trying to find opportunities for you, so I can't sort of ring you all the time.
Yeah.
And if you say it that, you know, sensibly like that and quite sort of, you know, maturely, they'll just say, oh, great, yeah, thanks for being honest, you know, usually. So it's good.
Fair enough. And just one last one is, what have been your key motivators to succeed?
Now, money helps.
Yeah.
No, but the reality is, it's for me, it isn't the money really, else I really wouldn't be doing it. But it's actually more about the fact that the satisfaction I get is from, you know, when you're running your own desk, it is all about that feeling of satisfying the customer. You know, it's all about if I let someone down, it's not Randstad I'm letting down, it's me and my client that I'm letting down. So it's all about me and my relationship with you or my candidate or my client, you know. So I think if you always look at it like that, or if that's your sense of, if that's where you get your sense of, you know, motivation and drive from, which is, you know, certainly what I do, and I think anyone who's successful, they usually have a real determination and, you know, sense of energy and sense of, what's the word? There's a word actually that I always use here. Resilience. You know, you've got to be sort of resilient, but also have this real drive and energy to
Engagement?
to you know, please the client really and fulfil their need. And if you don't have that, you're never going to succeed. So, you know, if you don't feel that now after 8 months, then think about a new job, because you can't sort of learn or grow that. You've kind of got to instinctively feel that. You know, you've got to have this desire to serve and to sort of fulfill people's expectations and be happy to, you know, when you get kicked in the face, because some people will, you know, be rude to you sometimes, but you know, you just got to pick yourself up and get on with it, because that's what it's all about. That's the sort of nature of a service mentality that we're in. We are in a service industry, so it's all about providing an amazing service that sort of beats everyone else. And if you look at it as a, you know, that it's your own personal brand that's at stake, that's really easy to do as well. You know, I don't really play sport or anything. It's the same sort of thing. It's like, you know, it's not necessarily the team you, and it's you yourself sometimes that's, you know, you don't want to let yourself down on the sports field or whatever, do you? You want to just be the one that's sort of getting out there and actually, you know, making it happen and bringing the team along with you. Sometimes that's sort of the way to look at it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Makes sense to me anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.